the hot child in the city's 13 Nights of Halloween. That is right, we are talking about the Twilight Zone today. If you're anything like me, you love the Twilight Zone. I love the Twilight Zone, and we are talking about the most scariest episodes. I did a piece on this a little while back, and you can go read it in the episode's description, but we're gonna break them down even further today with some clips and fun facts. I'm so excited. This is my favorite time of the year, and I'm so excited we're doing this like Vlogmas, but October version, you know? Halloween-miss? Vlogoween? Vlogoween. That's what we're gonna call it. It's Vlogoween time. Slay! So when I first posted about this on Instagram, a lot of you commented about your favorite and most scary episodes. Some of those did not make the list because I'm going for more, how should I say this? Kind of campy, horror-y instead of like actually horrific. I don't know.
Stop it.
Number 1, we are talking about Howling Man. Spoiler warnings, by the way. Plot twist, he's actually the devil. This episode was actually based on a short story by Charles Beaumont, and it was published in the 1959 November issue of Rogue magazine. It was originally envisioned by Beaumont that the monks in this episode would keep the devil in prison by putting a cross in front of his cellar door, or the cell door.
Hello?
But fearful of a backlash in the original... So the Twilight Zone producers were fearful about possible backlash in the religious community, so they opted in to use the Staff of Truth, but Beaumont originally objected to this. Number 2, Living Doll. Her name is Talkie Tina, and you better be nice to her.
My name is Talkie Tina, and I'm beginning to hate you.
Yeah, hello, 911?
This doll was modeled by Chatty Cathy, which was a popular talking doll manufactured by Mattel during the time of Living Doll, during the time it aired. The doll used in the episode was produced by the Vogue Doll Company between 59 and 61. This doll was actually a non-talking doll, so fun fact there. The 1988 horror film Child's Play, which introduced us to the doll Chucky, was partially inspired by this episode. Number 3, The Dummy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're certainly glad to be here tonight. Speak for yourself, Turkey. That's Jerry. Every dummy to his own taste.
This is starring my main man, Cliff Robertson, aka the Big Kahuna in the original 1959 Gidget movie. And this is where we see a different side of him than this like tall, dark, handsome, strapping surfer. He's so cute. Okay, so the dummy used in this episode to portray Willie was originally created in the 1940s by a puppet maker, Rivello Pitte. His name is Geppetto. And it was later used again in the 1964 Twilight Zone episode Caesar and Me. Now, the original dummy that was used in both episodes resides in David Copperfield's International Museum and Library of the Conjuring Arts in Las Vegas, along with the Cliff Robertson dummy that appears at the end of the episode. So you know how they have the dummy that turns into Cliff Robertson that strikes the resemblance of him? They're both in Copperfield's museum. So, fun fact. Number 4, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. This might be the most famous episode other than To Serve Man, which we'll get to later. This episode stars William Shatner and Christine White, who both appeared in one earlier episode of the original series. This episode is based on the short story Alone by Night, and it differs a little bit from the TV episode. It was actually directed by Richard Donner, who went on to direct films such as The Omen, Superman, and The Goonies. This episode was remade into the 1983 movie version of The Twilight Zone, which starred John Lithgow, and it was also remade in 2019 in the Jordan Peele series starring Adam Scott, and it has been parodied in pop culture numerous times. And you can see at the end of the Adam Scott episode, there's a little doll washed up on the beach that is an allusion to the original Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Number 5, Nick of Time.
Don.
What? Let's go.
No,
Are you just going to stay here?
I don't know.
This is another William Shatner episode. Writer Richard Matheson said that he wished that Pat Breslin, who played Pat Carter, had been available to play the wife of Shatner's character in the season 5 episode Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. So he wanted the original wife from Nick of Time, married to William Shatner, to play the wife again, so it kind of could be like them reuniting in this other alternate reality, I suppose. This episode is really good because I, for example, have OCD, and it reminds me a lot of my mother, who also had OCD. This episode is a good example of just superstition and, you know, sometimes rituals that can happen within the OCD, you know, universe, I should say. Which is why I kind of have to stay away from some of these machines that predict the future. I mean, hey, I love a good horoscope. I love a good psychic. I went to one in New Orleans. You know, Shatner's character becomes sort of obsessive in this episode, and it's a really, I don't know, it just really resonates with me still. 22, this is such a good one. I feel like this is an underrated classic. I have always been scared of this one since I first saw it when I was a little girl. This episode is based on a 1906 story, The Bus Conductor by E.F. Benson. And in his story, instead of a young female star, it features a large middle-aged male protagonist named Hugh Granger from the English country visiting a friend in London. So it's kind of like this phantom bus conductor instead of having this nurse in a hospital. And I believe this was shot on a different medium. I'm not good with film and names, like types of film, but it was shot differently. And it just makes it a little bit scarier for me. It makes it more raw. It looks like it's almost like found footage. So I love this episode. It's very spooky. Room for one more, honey.
Room for one more, honey. Electric chair.
Number 7, the Rip Van Winkle Caper.
100 years, gentlemen, and we shall walk the earth again. As a rich man, however, as an extremely rich man.
So, I didn't put Midnight Sun on this list. I apologize. Things like the end of the world, apocalypse, I really get freaked out. Those are just some of my no-nos. I'll watch some of the movies like Don't Look Up and Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Like I am fascinated by the subject, but it's probably the most like terrifying for me. This episode is not exactly like that. It's kind of in the realm because these men steal a bunch of like gold blocks. They steal a bunch of like money. They steal gold. They put themselves to sleep for like 100 years so they can get away with it. And then they just kind of like go into the future. Stuff like that. Deep sleep, like in Don't Look Up, when they like put themselves to sleep for like thousands and thousands of years. That kind of stuff. Oh, what's that movie with Chris Pratt? Oh, and Jennifer, what's her name? Jennifer Lawrence. That movie where they're in space and they kind of put themselves to sleep. No. I can't deal with things like that. This episode really freaks me out. So yeah, I won't give too much away. But I will say the futuristic car that is carrying the couple who find one of the characters at the end of the episode is actually a leftover prop, somewhat modified from MGM's 1956 film Forbidden Planet. Number 8, The Invaders. The only dialogue in the entire episode, aside from Rod Serling's usual narration, came from Douglas Hayes, the episode's director. The protagonist, portrayed by Agnes Moorehead, often cries out in pain and terror, but never speaks. I won't give too much away, but she gives a tremendous performance. You are literally on the edge of your seat, even though there's like no dialogue. You are completely in her shoes. She takes you through this whole entire journey. Love this episode. Number 9, The Hitchhiker.
I believe you're going my way.
Oh, this one's so spooky. I remember the first time I watched it. Oh my gosh. This episode is based on Lucille Fletcher's radio play, The Hitchhiker. So, you know, radio plays were a big thing at the time. And yeah, again, I won't give too much away, but definitely when he like pops up, it's kind of like a jump scare. And there's nothing really like scary about this man. He kind of just gives off an aura. I don't think he says anything until the end, but really good episode, and the twist ending is fantastic. Number 10, The Masks.
And now, you're all very rich. Now you own everything that I have owned.
The Masks was directed by Ida Lupino, who had starred in the first season episode The 16mm Shrine. She was the only woman to direct an original episode of The Twilight Zone. This one's so good because of the dynamic of family, and I think most of us can relate to having a disorganized family unit, and I think it's a really well done episode, and the father kind of gets the last laugh in the end. Again, trying not to give too much away, but fantastic. 11. The monsters are due on Maple Street.
No, it's nothing of the sort. I didn't know the lights on, I swear I didn't. Somebody's pulling a gag or something.
A gag? A gag? Charlie, there's a man lying dead in the street and you killed him. Does that look like a gag to you?
This is another episode that has a Forbidden Planet tie-in because the aliens are wearing uniforms left over from the 1956 film. The episode served as a major influence on science fiction in the decades that followed. Many films drew inspiration from this episode, including The Mist, directed by Frank Darabont. The Mist is scary. That's another one, like, oh my god, if you just waited like 2 more seconds, that movie, oh. Number 12. It's a Good Life.
You think bad thoughts about me. And maybe some man in this room, some man with guts, somebody who's so sick to death of living in this kind of place and willing to take a chance, will sneak up behind you and lay something heavy across your skull.
You knew this was coming. You knew it was coming, right? This episode is based on the 1953 short story It's a Good Life by Jerome Bixby. The opening narration of this episode is sampled in Michael Jackson's Threatened, which is on his 2001 album Invincible. Isn't that weird? Like, again, Michael put Vincent Price in Thriller, so there's just interesting sci-fi facts surrounding music. This episode's so good. And it's creepy. Night Call, starring Gladys Cooper, who appeared in 2 other episodes, one famously co-starring Robert Redford. Oh, beautiful episode. One of my favorites. This episode is based on Richard Matheson's short story, Sorry, Right Number, which appeared in the November 1953 issue of Beyond Fantasy Fiction. Matheson, you're kind of weaving into all of this. I love it. This one is sure to give you goosebumps on a quiet evening home alone.
Brian, if you're there, speak to me. It's Elva. Elva. Please speak to me, it's Elva.
Stopover in a quiet town. All I'm gonna say about this one is don't drink and drive. 15, The New Exhibit. Starring the iconic Martin Balsam, the episode takes advantage of the hour-long format, giving us a chilling tale perfect for an October night. If you know this one, I'm not a big fan of the later episodes that are 1 hour, but this one I think is really good. It's really creepy. 16, To Serve Man.
Don't get on that ship! The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook!
No!
Again, you knew it was coming. Arguably the greatest Twilight Zone episode of all time, based on Damon Knight's 1950 short story of the same title. The episode was written by Rod Serling and directed by Richard L. Baer. The 2019 episode you might also like serves as a sequel to the episode, and To Serve Man has been referenced in pop culture numerous times, including, I believe, in The Simpsons.
Wait, there's still more space dust on here. Let me get this straight. You thought they thought we were going to eat them.
What is the spookiest episode of The Twilight Zone in your opinion? Comment below. Be sure to subscribe. Hope you enjoyed this video. And again, if you want to read more in depth about these episodes, you can go to my website. In the episode's description, you'll find the link. And yeah, be sure to enter my costume contest. There's not really going to be any prize or anything. There's just going to be a feature. If you want to be featured in the costume, extravaganza, I should say, you can email me, and remember, it is all musicians, so what are music based. Be sure to send your costumes my way, pictures of you dressed as famous musicians or just something musical based. If you were Freddie Mercury one year, I don't know why I always say Freddie Mercury, because I'm thinking of Wanna Break Free. That's such a good costume idea in my opinion, but any costume will do. Thank you again for tuning in to another Vlogoween video. It doesn't have the same ring to it. 13 Nights of Halloween. Thank you for tuning in.
Don't get on that ship! The rest of the book, To Serve Man, It's a cookbook.